David Stearns is widely considered one of the best executives in all of baseball, and there's a rumor he could be joining the Mets after this season. I believe this could be the best thing that happened to this franchise since Steve Cohen bought the team. I want to tell you why, and also I'll preview Mets vs. Yankees on today's edition of Locked On Mets.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter at Finkelstein Ryan. You can also find some of my writing, justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now, Bob Nightingale had one of those stories where he kind of reports on a bunch of things and kind of lets you peek into the shadows a little bit about what's going on in Major League Baseball. And the rumor is David Stearns could be joining the Mets front office after this season, which is something that's been kind of rumbled for a little bit now. He's sort of stepped away from the Brewers, but he's still, under contract for presiding, I don't know if over the franchise, but it's been, clear that Stearns would be exiting when his contract is up with the Brewers, and he becomes immediately the top free agent executive available. And I'll tell you what, I spoke about this on the show a little over a week ago. I think it was the preview of the Mets Brave series where I was comparing where these franchises are going. And I said, look, because the Braves have Alex Anthopoulos, the Mets are behind when it comes to the executive leading the charge. But if they were to get a David Stearns, that could change everything. This could change everything. Okay. This could be the best thing that has happened to this franchise since Steve Cohen bought the team. And since then, you traded for Francisco Lindor. You've, signed Scherzer and Verlander, which, get to that in a little bit when I'm with the host of Locked On Yankees about this upcoming series. But a lot of good things have happened. The Mets won 101 games, and you have Francisco Alvarez looking like a superstar just getting promoted. A lot's happened. But here's the thing for me. What do you want more than anything in sports? A good owner. Second to that, you want a good executive with a steady hand on the wheel. And Billy Epler's moves have not been panning out for the Mets lately. I'm not pinning it all on him. Okay? The players had to perform. But he identified Daniel Vogelbach as a player to go after. And as much as I defended it last year, now the larger sample size you have on him, you just see he's an ill-fitting piece for your roster. He clogs things up, jams things up in a lot of ways. He's the one that built the bullpen this year and chose optionality relievers instead of just signing the best arms available. He wanted guys who could send up and down because you want that flexibility throughout the season. Well, guess what? If you don't have the depth of quality arms, what's that going to do for you? A lot of mistakes have been made along the way. Not all Epler. The Pete Crow Armstrong trade, not his fault. But what you need is executive like David Stearns. And if you're not familiar with his work, he Harvard grad, was interning with the Pirates while he was in school. He actually was with the Mets in their baseball operations department. Arizona Fall League. He was with the Cleveland then Indians, now Guardians. And in 2012, he ended up with the Houston Astros, where he was the assistant GM to Jeff Luhnow, and worked under him for a couple of years. And in 2015, became the youngest GM in baseball when he took the job with the Brewers. Now, at the time, the Brewers were coming off a 68-94 season. 2016, pretty much the same thing, 73 and 89. But from that point on, 2018 through 2021, when you finally felt the weight of David Stearns making the decisions for the Brewers, they made the playoffs all 4 seasons. They went 96. Well, first they went, okay, actually, take that back. So It's a 5-year run, really more like a 6-year run. The first year of it, they missed the playoffs, but they were second. So they were 86-76 in his second year running the team. They finally made the playoffs his third year running the team, 96-67. They won the division. They then went 89-73, second in the division, made the playoffs. They made the playoffs in the shortened season with a 29-31 record. Then in 2021, they won 95 games, won the division again. So 2 division titles in that 4-year run where they made the playoffs consecutively. And then last year, they barely missed it at 86-76, and they're currently in first place. Or I guess now I'm looking at Baseball Reference, has them in second. I guess the Pirates maybe edged them out, but there's a lot of talent that's left over in that franchise that David Stearns helped bring in. So if he becomes the GM of the New York Mets, you're finally going to have a top flight executive where you don't have to worry about the Mets getting fleeced in trades, where you can feel confident that the Mets, when it comes to understanding the analytics and implementing them properly when it comes to roster construction, you have one of the guys that's the best in the business at doing exactly that. If he becomes the president of baseball operations, suddenly Billy Epler doesn't have as much responsibility running baseball ops. And he's just a second in command GM. All right, you're fine, because David Stearns is presiding over it. And I think Billy Epler in that scenario still brings a lot to this front office. So that could be the biggest thing that could happen here. If you told me right now the Mets could have David Stearns or Shohei Ohtani this offseason, I, of course, would pick Ohtani, but I'd think about it and I'd blink for a second. And that tells you how incredible that hire would be for the Mets. So when we see a report like that, coming off the heels of me discussing it briefly on the podcast a couple weeks ago, I wanted to spend a segment on it because, look, it's not like you're turning the page to next year just yet. But if a David Stearns is interested in taking this position, and again, he's started with the Mets, and everything would tell you that the Mets would be his dream job. Okay, this is a guy that grew up in New York. So if that happens, for a guy that honestly could probably go back and do something with the Astros if he wanted to, and that would maybe be the other organization that he could go to, that's going to take this franchise to a different level, and that will legitimize this franchise in a way where you can be pretty confident that with Steve Cohen's resources and David Stearns' brains, you won't be in the position you're in right now too often. It's baseball. I think it happened. And look, the Mets can still go on a run this year, but that's massive news if it proves to be true. Unfortunately, we're still far removed from knowing if that is going to be the case. And in the meantime, Mets versus Yankees. That is, of course, the story of the next couple of days in New York. Subway Series. I was on with Locked On Yankees for a crossover, so we'll have that for the final 2 segments of the show. Before we get to it, though, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. If you've ever been in a situation where you want to go to the game, but finding tickets can just be too stressful and you can't find a good price, Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, so you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you're going to have at the game. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps, you're all set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone so you never have to dig through your email. Snag tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONOB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONOB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Kind of a locked on therapy session today, if you will. The Yankees and Mets are obviously not playing up to their potential. Ryan, the Mets feel like a mess, if I do say so. What is going on with you guys?
A little bit of everything. It's one of those seasons. Anyone who's been watching baseball long enough knows it, where your team just can't put it all together at once. Either you have the good hitting day with no pitching, the good starter, and then you get absolutely no offense. That's been the story of the season. Particularly the rotation has been bad. And Look, I think I could boil it down pretty simply. If the veterans, the Mets, are paying a lot of money, don't play up to the standards that they're expecting, obviously this team's going nowhere. And right now, it's looking like it. So, there's still plenty of time, but it's getting to that point where you're in June. You're like, okay, is this season ever going to get going the way you want it
Yeah.
to? And I don't know. I definitely need to be put on the therapy couch. So thank you for that.
So, okay, here's the thing for me. Outside looking in, obviously, we're not covering the Mets every day like you are, but we're covering the Yankees over here. And without Aaron Judge in the Yankees lineup, the Yankees are completely different, just completely different. And I know it's hasn't been such the same for the Mets, but outside looking in, you guys were on a run. Pete Alonso gets hurt, and it looks like you've been in a downward spiral since, right?
A little bit. I think the difference between Judge and Alonso is I think it's a lot easier to replace the first baseman. And the Mets are kind of in this spot where they have to figure out, who else is going to be thriving for this team down the stretch. So in some ways, it opens up opportunities for a guy like Mark Vientos, who's a prospect that's come up, hasn't got a lot of run. For Mark Canha, who Tommy Pham was taking his playing time and left. So overall, like even though Alonso losing him is massive, to me, it's still the same issues that were already there. Like until Lindor and McNeil look like they did last year, there's like with Judge, it's like your entire the vortex of your team shifts entire like there's so much that he does for your baseball team where Alonso obviously you're missing the home runs, but I feel like they can get by, but the bigger issue has been getting nothing from guys like Verlander that you expected a lot from.
Stace, obviously, Judge has been the biggest story for us all season. I mean, 2 different trips on the IL, but I mean, it's also Anthony Rizzo, especially right now in his absence, just literally doing nothing.
Yeah, yeah. I said it on yesterday's show, I believe, that he really should have gone on the IL after he hurt his neck because he's basically done nothing since he's hurt his neck. They're just running him out there, hoping he starts to hit. And, Boone's saying things like, oh, I think I'm seeing it in batting practice. He's going to turn it around soon. It's like, well, he needs to turn it around like in the next 5 minutes because he can't go on like this.
Yeah, he's like, what, 0 for 24 or something?
Well, he
Something
hasn't
around
had
there.
a hit since Judge ran through the wall in LA. So I don't know, maybe his feelings are hurt. Maybe he's upset that his best friend is
He
he's
just
missing his
misses
best
him in the
friend.
lineup. Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. I really don't know what to say about that. It's because I mean Rizzo has been so good this season too that it just makes no sense that it would be like straight off of a cliff.
Yeah. I mean, the neck is probably bothering him worse than he let on because how do you go from doing as well as he was doing? He was above 300. He was constantly on base to doing absolutely nothing the past week and a half.
Yeah, and then you can like it's as plain as it can be. It's like that bookmark is right there. It's right when he got hurt at first base. So Ryan, you had mentioned that you guys aren't getting like the veteran production, right? And I think where the Yankees differ in that regard is the Yankees have veteran production. They're just physically not there, right? We mentioned Judge. Bader's not there. Stanton has been missing pretty much the whole season until recently. Josh Donaldson has been gone pretty much the whole season until recently. Like, it's bizarre how many injuries the Yankees have had this season.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's funny you mentioned the neck thing because Starling Marte had a neck injury earlier this year, and he did the same thing. He like played through it. Why are these guys playing through neck injuries? Because I don't know. Maybe you need your head and your neck to see a baseball.
Hello?
Maybe I don't know. It could be. It could be because there was a 2-3 week, maybe even a full month stretch where Marte looked like a shell of himself, and now he's kind of pulling himself out of it. But yeah, it's funny because the Mets, I think for the most part, for their position players, have had pretty decent injury luck. There hasn't been a lot of guys cycling in and out. For them, it's the rotation. The rotation was ravaged early, and it's like they've gotten some of their guys back, but they're still waiting on Jose Quintana. And then with Verlander and Scherzer, they just had such a weird season where I think Scherzer is finally in a good rhythm. But Verlander, I mean, he's 7 starts in, and 3 of them have been bad. So we'll see. I imagine he turns it around, but old rosters get hurt.
Yeah, go figure. Hey, you're talking to a Lakers fan. So I know all about that. Stace, like obviously we're going to be talking about this series over the next couple of days here on Locked On Yankees, but like, do you anticipate this kind of being a dud of a Subway series considering there's no Judge and no Alonso?
Yes. I feel like it's going to be like the Red Sox Yankees series where it's going to be like that was just so boring to me this past weekend. The winning team in all three games only scored 3 runs. Like the pitching was pretty good, but like the offenses just didn't do anything. There was nothing exciting about the games. And I feel like, yeah, with those two out, because, those are usually the guys they show on the promos for the big Subway
Mhm.
Series games, and they're not in. And I feel like it could be a dud. But then again, you could have a case where someone like, Billy McKinney hits a home run or something like that. Like
Or
it could be
robs
that.
one out of
Yeah.
nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah. You never know what's going to happen, but I don't know. Ryan, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about the 2-2 series now? Do you miss the 3-game weekend series where they were constantly on Fox and ESPN, or are you?
I feel like it would be cool if they would do just like you know what would actually be cool if they did one at each ballpark twice a year. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Mix it up, just do something to make it a little more unique. I don't know, the fact that there's so much kind of built around it that there's an off day in each side of it, that it's supposed to be this big spectacle. And look, maybe the pitching matchups give us that, but yeah, if it's Billy McKinney and Tommy Pham are the headliners, I guess this isn't as exciting of a Subway Series as, of course, Alonso and Judge.
Yeah, I mean, they do the same thing in Southern California with Angels Dodgers. They do the 2-gamer, and I'm just like, what are we doing, man? I don't understand it. It doesn't make much sense to me. But hey, a lot of things that Major League Baseball doesn't make much sense to me. To be fair, I kind of wanted to touch on this. Obviously, I'm on the West Coast. I've said that 10 trillion times, but so I don't get to see firsthand the Yankees Mets rivalry. What is it like right now? Ryan, let's start with you from your Mets perspective. Obviously, over the last few years, the Mets have gone through a massive transformation. What do you see the fan bases kind of colliding like right now with these two franchises?
I felt like last year there was a little bit of steam in it because the teams were really good. And so it was like, I mean, there was a large stretch of the season where they had, if not the best record in their respective leagues, I mean, one of the best records. So when you're looking at it that way, and it's these teams that are, spiraling towards 100 wins, it's like, all right, like there's some momentum here. Who owns the city? If the Mets are a, third, fourth place team and the Yankees have a couple teams ahead of them in the division, I mean, like a battle of third place teams. It's just it's not the same thing. And as much as there's always like that baked in Yankees Mets rivalry, I've always been one. Maybe it's because I don't live in New York, where I still look at the teams in the division as the ones that you're like. I don't hate the Yankees the way I hate the Braves. Like,
Right. I
should
don't hate
I?
the Mets the way I hate the Red Sox.
Yeah, why
Yeah.
why would I?
Yeah.
It's they met in the World Series once, and other than that, they're really never going to play a game that's that significant until we get a second Subway World Series, which would be awesome. And last year, I think the reason why there was that kind of steam there is because we thought for a minute, oh, this could be a year where it's possible.
Well, yeah, at one point last year, you had both LA teams and both New York teams in first place, and I think it was like May, but still everyone's like, wow, this is the first time this has happened in how long? And then, things change. But it's true. I pay more attention to the division rivals than the Mets. Like they try to build it up to this whole rivalry thing. And because I'm in New York, I see it. The local newscasters or sportscasters will really try to make it dramatic and build it up. And the newspapers try to do that in sports radio. And it's just like, it's 27 years of this, 26 years of this now. And it's just, maybe we need a break.
Yeah.
To make it exciting again. I feel like there needs to be like a 4 or 5 season break and then start doing the weekend series again and then make it like more exciting.
Wow, the old Ross and Rachel try and get them on a break here. Also, quick correction: one LA team and one Orange County team. Just want to.
I know, even but the whole LA.
I know,
I know
but
where they are.
I have to. I have
know.
to. It's just in my DNA. State of the franchises I wanted to get into as well. We, again, on Locked On Yankees, talk about it constantly. We're always talking about our minor league system. I got a chance to see the Syracuse Mets on a good chunk of occasions last season. Them and the Rail Riders played a whole bunch of times. Ryan, what is the state right now of Mets minor league baseball?
Well, I think we're seeing it make its way up to this big league team. Like, you're going to see, if you want to talk about like a box office player for this series, Francisco Alvarez is about as fun of a rookie as you're going to watch right now. He loves to pimp his home runs, flex his muscles as he's running the bases. He's always got a big smile on his face. He looks every bit the 21-year-old that he is. There's him, there's Brett Beatty, there's Mark Vientos on the big league roster, Ronnie Mauricio, another prospect who's been in Syracuse all year, who's got a lot of hype around him. So there's this wave of prospects that's just coming up. For me, what I'm excited to see is suddenly kind of out of thin air this season, a little bit last year, particularly this year, you've seen some guys like Mike Vassell, Dominic Hamill, Christian Scott, some of these pitching prospects that have been really kind of taking a leap. And I know the Mets have been pouring money into building what every team wants. They have to call it pitching labs. That's what you want, right? Your team to be able to develop pitching. I don't know if the Mets can yet, but it certainly looks a lot better than it did 2 years ago. So what you have to hope, if you're a Mets fan, is the fact that Steve Cohen is pouring resources into development, that those, a dollar spent will pay dividends in the future. But to me, it's still too soon to say, oh yeah, because they spent money, it's going to be fixed. I got to actually see one of these guys come up instead of Tyler McGill taking the ball every fifth day and giving up 6 runs. That's not going to show me much.
Sure. Yeah. I feel like the Yankees are in a bit of a similar conundrum. Like, they obviously have been able to churn out prospects, but they've also sent those prospects out, which really hurt them and are really hurting them this season. All the trade deadline moves have really hurt the Yankees this season. Losing guys like Hayden Wesneski and losing Ken Wall to Chuck, losing all these prospects. And now you're going, oh, well, he's hurt, and there's no one to come fill those voids. So it is really bizarre. And I think the Yankees have done a good job of developing pitching in their own right. They've definitely done that in the bullpen. That's for certain. Their bullpen is one of the best in baseball on any given night, even without a bona fide closer. I know you have that pain as well. But it is interesting because I think Sam Breen has done a really good job. The new director of pitching, he was hired in the offseason of 19 into the 2020 season. So he really hasn't had a whole bunch of time to get these guys going. And then they trade away the top guys. So, but I mean, the guys in AA right now are ridiculous. We've been talking about them all season long, so I won't bore you with the details. But yeah, it's really magnificent how they've been able to do that. I didn't get a chance to ask you, Ryan. I guess you kind of touched on it, thinking that this series might end up being a dud. But do you have any bold predictions or anticipations for this quick 2-gamer in the middle of the week?
Bold predictions on this series. Let's see here. One of Scherzer and Verlander will be good, and one will be awful.
That's not bold.
That's
not. I guess the good side might be bold.
Yeah, Scherzer will be good. Verlander will be bad. I don't know. I don't have any bold predictions. To me, it'd be bold to say the Mets are going to sweep this series, but I have no faith in that. I mean, they've been on a free fall. They've won, was it one of the last 9 or something like that? So I don't know. This is a Mets team that you don't know what version you're going to get. So,
Stace, is this going to be the worst Subway series in recent memory?
No, I can tell you which one is that. It was 2020.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, I'm pretty sure Tom Seaver passed during that series. And Ahmed Rosario had a walk-off hit with a bunch of cardboard cutouts in the ballpark. It was so awkward and just, yeah. Imagine trying to build up the hype on a Subway series when no one's there.
Yeah, that was that whole season was so weird. But yeah, I almost forgot about that. You reminded me of it because 2020 is such a blur that I don't really remember much of what happened that year. So yeah, gosh, I
remember specifically in that 2020 season, again, West Coast guy, whenever you go to Angel Stadium still, and they play whatever montages and things like that, in those hype videos is Mike Trout's 300th career home run, which he did in an empty ballpark. And they have the monitors 300. It's like, this is depressing. Actually.
I forgot about that. Oh my gosh.
And that was, by the way, that home run made him the franchise leader in home runs. Cool. Great. A solo shot against the Mariners on July 15th in front of nobody. Great. This is exciting. 2020, man. Hot take. Weird year.
Yeah.
That's my hot take. Hey, you know what? Why not? Someone's going to throw no over these next 2 days.
Wow.
Well, it's not going to be either of the Yankee starters.
Just because both teams are not hitting. That's right.
Yeah.
Someone's going to
Or
get no hit.
actually, yeah, no, I could actually see that. I could see one of the matchups like where both pitchers have like a no going to like the fifth or the sixth because both offenses can't do anything. That could be a thing that we see.
How about some ones? How about a combined no?
Oh,
An
the
actual
best thing in
no is
baseball.
too exciting.
Yeah, that's true.
Severino gives you 4 no-hit innings with like 8
100
walks,
pitches.
and then the bullpen closes it out. But the Mets
Yeah,
can't
then
score.
they go Holmes, they go Marinaccio, they
Yeah.
go
Wandy, and then
Wandy goes an inning. Yeah.
King closes it.
King closes it out and it's like, wow, 5 pitcher combined no. That was great. 1-0 on an
Yeah.
air. If I just guessed that, I'm a genius. We'll see. 2-game set. Sevy Scherzer, Cole Verlander, Ryan Finkelstein. Thanks for hanging out with us today here on this Locked On crossover.
Absolutely, guys.